Hello, everybody. This is Here Comes the Spider-Cast, number 12. I am your co-host, Mike L., and as always, I'm joined by...
Josh Mervell, and we're going to be reading the Spider-Man comics from June 1981. Each week, we review a new month, and we're going chronologically. So this week, we're going to be doing Amazing Spider-Man number 217. Then we're going to move on to Marvel Team-Up 106. And then we're going to finish off with Peter Parker, the Spectacular Spider-Man number 55.
Right. Okay, so starting with Amazing Spider-Man number 217. I have heard so much about this story over the years. I'm not sure if you did.
Right. Not necessarily, actually.
It's just kind of like a... I don't know. I guess because of the way it was spoken about, I kind of just thought it was this like classic story that everyone loved, you know, like
right.
Demon in a Bottle or whatever, Born Again. It's not quite to that level.
No.
It's a fairly clever idea. I actually don't mind the idea. I'm mostly talking about the end of the issue.
Yes,
by the way.
I was gonna say, like, I feel like the comic in general was pretty average. Like it was pretty good and a solid comic, but then at the end, it really piqued my interest, and I really am very excited to read next week's issue.
Yes, it definitely had a good ending, but before we get to the end, unfortunately, we have to talk about the rest of the issue.
Right.
The first thing I noticed is. Okay, so basically, Spidey has just beat those guys who were planning that murder last month.
Right, from last issue.
Yeah, so unfortunately, we're still dealing with that story. But then what happens is Hydro Man shows up, and I just want to point out there's actually a really cool sequence on page 2 where we kind of see Spider-Man interacting with the cops down, sort of in the background, and in the upper foreground, we see Hydro Man coming out of this water.
Yeah.
What is it called? It's a cool thing.
Water tower?
Yeah, like a water tower. Yeah, it's cool. I like that. Yeah.
Yeah, it's a really cool layout. I mean, not much is happening between the cops and Spider-Man throughout those 3 panels that are side by side, but that's because the focus of it is supposed to be Hydro Man kind of coming out. So I really kind of like that they kept the background simple with what we were not supposed to be focusing on, and then what we were supposed to be focusing on is the only thing that changed, which is really, really well done, I thought. Although, I will say, I think it's absolutely ridiculous that Hydro Man has just been hanging around this water tower waiting for Spider-Man to show up.
I know.
These weren't his goons that he put there. It's not like he set this... Like, it would be a very different story. I think it'd be kind of clever if he set it up where he, like, convinced the goons to kill somebody from the water towers, knowing that Spider-Man would show up. But he just happened to be there. Yeah.
Well, he says here, I mixed with the rain and came back together in this here barrel. Like, this specific barrel.
Yeah.
It's just more...
Does that mean when he like, burst into mist and he became part of the rain, was it only this specific cloud that had the rain and it all happened to pour into the water tower? Like, what?
See,
what's the logic behind this?
Well, and then on the next page he says, I've been trapped in there stewing, waiting to do this. Wait, why was he trapped? If he has control over all of his molecules and can turn into water, how was he trapped?
Right. He was waiting for somebody to open up the lid. Like, it's just ridiculous. Yeah. And when I first started reading this issue, I thought, like, here we go, another Denny O'Neil flop.
Yeah.
Because I was just like, you've got to be kidding me. This is so ridiculous. But I think it does improve along the way. Mm-hmm. And as the issue goes on, it gets better. But there's still some really weird stuff. Mm-hmm. Like Lonesome Pincus.
Who's that again?
His neighbor.
Oh, the cowboy.
The cowboy.
Like the guy singing country music. That is another weird subplot that
doesn't go anywhere. I looked it up. No. I'm pretty sure this is the last issue he makes an appearance in.
It's just so pointless. So, like, maybe Denny O'Neil was poking fun at, like, someone he knew or someone on staff. But
must have been, yeah.
Yeah, just again, like you said, goes nowhere. It's just stupid. And then before we get to that, we have this. Now, this is interesting because I've just watched the new Halloween movie, which that's a whole other conversation. But he goes to see a movie. It clearly says Halloween 2.
Yeah.
But everything he's saying it doesn't quite match. Like he says, the critics say the ending of this film is dynamite, absolutely impossible to guess. And I don't remember Halloween 2 that well, but I don't remember there being a twist ending.
Right.
But then they say something in here. Oh,
it was the grandma that planted the bomb or something like that.
Yeah, what the hell? That's not Halloween 2. Am I wrong?
No, I don't think so. But I think it was also just supposed to be like, I don't know.
Yeah, just like generic movie plot. Like, well, they should have picked a different name for it. But
I
whatever.
wonder if Halloween 2 maybe hadn't come out yet at this time.
Could be. Good point.
I'm going to look that up because maybe it was just kind of a joke. Like it's a Halloween 2, kind of like Jaws 73 or whatever it was in...
Yeah, like I know what you mean. Like they used to do that. Like Back to the Future, they'd show like Rambo 15 or whatever.
Right. Oh, you know what? Halloween 2 came out in 1981.
And when was this? Oh, this is 81.
This was 1981. But this came out. The movie came out October 30th, 1981, and this came out June. So this was right before Halloween 2 came out. So
and I bet you it hit the stands probably at least 3 months before that.
Right.
Before June, so it's even earlier. So you're right. Maybe people didn't even know it was coming out yet.
Yeah.
Because, they didn't have the internet back then, so there was no way to keep up on things. So anyway, then we touch base with Sandman, and he's kind of in the bar with his girlfriend.
Before that, we actually see a little bit of Deb right after the movie theater. So, well, in the movie theater, which honestly, I really like this part. Only because we kind of get some justice for Deb,
right?
And we kind of make fun of Peter Parker a little bit, which normally I'd be like, oh man, this guy's a bully. But honestly, the way that Parker's been acting, I'm like, finally somebody's putting him in his place. Yeah, he completely deserves it. So yeah, I just wanted to point that out because we've been talking about poor Deb Whitman for the past few episodes, so I just wanted to make sure we brought that up.
It's so funny because we've seen so much of Deborah Whitman, and the general public doesn't like. I barely knew who she was growing up, and look how prominent she was in this era. She's in every story, but she's just been lost to history.
I think she's lost because this era of Spider-Man is lost too.
Good point.
You know what I mean? Like nobody really brings up these stories that we've been because they're not the greats. That's like some of them have been pretty solid, but it's definitely not something I would suggest or bring up if I'm talking about Spider-Man comics.
No, good point. Okay, so Sandman is in the bar with this girl,
right?
And then Hydro Man comes in, and it turns out it's his girlfriend, right?
Right. This is the girl from the issue we were introduced to Hydro Man when he starts sweating in the bar.
Right.
So this is the same woman. Yeah.
So then it's almost like, then getting back to Lonesome Pincus, it's almost like Denny O'Neil has a chart.
Right.
And he goes, okay, I got to have a little fight scene, then I could have a little Peter Parker, then I got to have a little Lonesome Pincus subplot, then a little Deborah Whitman. And he just hits all these checkpoints with every story, but
That's
never
very
really...
true.
Yeah, they just don't go together or click.
And the thing is, too, it's like a bizarro Spider-Man. Like this, like this checklist that he has each week for each month, I guess at the time, it's everything that Spider-Man's not. Yeah. Like, he's got to bitch about his next door neighbor, and he's got to go and be a jerk to Deb Whitman, and it's just kind of like the check marks are all for the wrong reasons. I mean, even to the the endings being completely abrupt.
Yeah,
it's just,
good point. It's funny because he also smashes. He's so upset about the guy playing the country music that he smashes through the wall. And
which is
now he's a what did you call him? He's a Kyle smashing the drywall, punching the drywall. Like this is have you ever seen the movie Night Shift?
No, I haven't.
Okay, it's one of the greatest movies ever made. But anyway, it stars. I'm half joking, but it is awesome. It's Michael Keaton's first role.
Okay.
Yeah, you should check it out. But anyway, the star of the film, the protagonist, is Henry Winkler, who we all know as the Fonz, right?
Right.
But in the film, he played against type. He played this sort of pushover, and there's a running subplot in the movie that there's a guy blaring country music in the next apartment over. But it's like when he finally does go over to confront him, only because his fiance forces him to, he gets his ass kicked, or like he gets threatened basically, and it's like that's how it should be. Like though Peter Parker, even though he is strong, he shouldn't be pushing people around, right?
Yeah, that would have actually been really funny if something like that happened to him. Yeah,
exactly.
Just
so
wild.
anyway, yeah. So then we get this. Cut back to this bar fight, which, by the way, I know that John Romita Jr. is still early in his career, but even this fight scene, if you look at the bottom of digital page 10,
right.
What a dull layout for a fight, you know? Just
even some of the drawings of the people, like if you look at the bottom left panel,
yeah,
the woman in the foreground looks so wrong,
right?
Like her proportions are off, like her profile is really weird and flat.
Right.
Like she looks like a Roman helmet.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
like,
good point.
Like
good
it's
point.
completely straight down for her forehead to her nose. It's just, it's weird.
Not great. And then that kind of drags out for a few more panels. And then
but the thing is too, it also just gets dropped.
Yeah.
Like she just says, I just had an idea. And then it jumps to them being friends and walking down the street and stealing stuff for this woman.
Yeah.
So yeah,
it's just, again, forced. It's illogical. It's just Denny O'Neil wanted to get the plot to this point, so he just forced it into that.
Right.
But it's not logical. Yeah.
But yeah, I think that near the end, I'm normally not a huge fan of like just fight scenes for fight scenes. But I think that this one was a little bit better than normal. Okay. I kind of like Hydro Man and Sandman teaming up together.
Yeah, it's a great idea. Like their powers make them a perfect team, right?
Right. Yeah. And there's some pretty cool stuff in it too. Like when he crashes the crates on them. I mean, that's kind of anticlimactic. Like, would you really think that would... I think they actually say that. Like, you really think crate would stop us? And it's true. Like, what were you thinking?
Sure.
But then it's just like a pile of sand, and then Sandman kind of forms this like monster face and hand. And it grabs like Spider-Man's like half of Spider-Man's leg. Like it's there's some pretty cool stuff I think in here, but doesn't really fit well together. Like nothing really flows or makes much sense, honestly.
No, I guess it's one of those things where, you know, again, the art kind of carries a little bit, but it just becomes like sort of too little too late. You know what I mean?
Right.
And then there's even like a silly scene on Digital 21, Original 20, when they're leaping towards each other and Spider-Man, you know, the way they're charging gives me a shot at one of the oldest moves in the book. And then the next page, he ducks down and they smash into each other. Chuck, choop. You know, I don't know. Just silliness supreme. They fall into the river and then they rise up behind him as he's thinking. More, you know, cool storytelling from John Romita Jr.
Yeah.
And then on this last page, we see that they formed into this giant sludge monster.
So
this is
cool.
the part. Yeah, this is the part that I've heard about. You know, people kind of reference.
Yeah,
like because it's a cool idea, them merging together into one. So
yeah, that's really cool to kind of see villains team up too.
Right.
I don't know when Sinister Six starts up, but I don't think that's till later,
well,
right?
The original Sinister Six was, I think, Amazing Spider-Man Annual #1. So that's way back in like 64.
Wow, okay.
Yeah, but then I think they disappeared for a while and then came back in the late 80s, yeah.
But I think it's really fun to see villains team up too, because we always see the heroes team up to face the villain. So when they... but my favorite part about it is when they can use their powers together in some sort of way.
Yes.
Like, if... We don't really see that in the next comic we're going to be talking about, but for the team up, if Spider-Man helped Cap swing his shield using his web, you know, like if they use their powers together, I really, really love that, and kind of, you know, having them work together. There's a really good example of it a really long time ago when I think it was a Quasar comic we were talking about.
Okay.
It was one of the team ups. I think it was the Thing and somebody else, but
was it Giant Man or Black Goliath?
Maybe. Okay. I think that they were fighting this radioactive monster. So to cut down on the radiation, somebody made...
Oh, it was
The
when
thing-
yes.
these
Yeah.
metal punching gloves, and I just thought like
was
it's
great.
so
That was
small,
great.
but it's
Yep.
clever, and you play to the strengths of each character, and you
Right.
kind of bring them together to team up. I absolutely love that. So the fact that these two cool villains can actually literally combine together to make this foe for Spider-Man is pretty cool.
Also, we all love John Romita Jr. and this art is, I mean, he's perfect for this character, the bulk
Yeah.
of this monster and the texture, So yeah, I'm definitely looking forward to next issue to see how this plays out.
Yeah.
So not a great issue again, but I'll give it a minor recommendation only because of the setup on the last
right.
page.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, I agree.
So the next issue we're reviewing is
Right.
Marvel Team Up 106, and you can take it from here.
Right. So this is we see Spider-Man teaming up with Captain America in this one. The gist of this comic is pretty much Scorpion escapes from an insane asylum, and he's going after Spider-Man and J. Jonah Jameson, and Spider-Man really just kind of runs into Captain America. There's really no team up going on.
Right.
The Spider-Man goes and saves J. Jonah Jameson after he's kidnapped by Scorpion.
But the thing is, though, and I actually not tweeted, but yeah, I posted this on a Facebook page. The one thing that I couldn't believe about this issue is that as of this time, and apparently longer after this, Spider-Man and Captain America did not know each other's secret identities.
Right.
So if you go to page, I mean, we'll talk about the whole story, but if you go to digital page 11, there's a panel where Peter Parker and Steve Rogers run into each other in the hallway.
Right.
And you're just naturally thinking, oh, of course they know each other. They're both superheroes. No, they don't. It's just so cool because at this point in Marvel history, most of them didn't. Even Iron Man and Captain America did not know each other's secret identities. I thought that was really cool. Did you know that?
Yeah, because I think we had just read a Spider-Man comic with Captain America, and Spider-Man is trying to save somebody, and then Captain America kind of just pushes him away and brushes him off, like, get out of here, kid.
When was this?
I think
Was that?
it was
Where
something.
was I for this?
I'm trying to
It wasn't
remember.
Contest of Champions, was it?
I don't think so. I'm trying
Well,
to remember.
maybe
No,
our
it
loyal
wasn't. No,
listeners can
it
remind
definitely
us.
wasn't Contest of Champions. But
Okay.
it wasn't even a team up with Captain America. He just happened to be in the comic, and I think that. Oh, you know what it was? It was when the Vulture kidnapped the little kid, and the kid had the plague or something like that.
Okay. Oh, in Spectacular.
Right. And they didn't know each other in that comic either.
Okay.
Yeah.
So I guess it's just my own bad short-term memory that I forgot that I already knew this fact. But anyway.
it still surprised me too, because it
Sure.
definitely catches me off guard, because it's kind of like now Spider-Man joins the Avengers now and then. You know what I mean? Like, it's kind of,
Which I don't
and
like,
I mean,
yeah.
even Steve Rogers is kind of just a well-known household name in
Right.
comics now. So it's weird that to see Cap with a secret identity.
Exactly, yeah. Things have changed, definitely.
Yeah.
Not always for the better. I mean, now the newest thing is Superman's going to get rid of his secret identity. I mean, I'm sure that a future writer will just reverse that, but
Probably.
it just seems to be a general feeling that all these superhero tropes are outdated, but I don't really think they are. I think that's what makes them unique.
Yeah. And you know what? I
Personally.
think that's my least favorite part of the MCU.
Is what?
The fact that nobody has a secret identity.
Yeah.
There's only one character who has a secret identity, and spoiler alert, it's no longer a secret identity anymore.
Who is it?
Spider-Man.
Oh, and it was revealed at the end of Far
Yeah.
From Home. Yes.
It's like I can't think of one other character that has that secret identity. They're all
You're
known.
right. Yeah, you're right.
So
You're right.
I really, and I think that was kind of missing from Civil War too, with the, I mean, they called it the Sokovia Accords, but it was the Superhuman Registration Act.
Yeah,
From the comics.
it was. I mean, that movie. Even Mark Miller, who wrote Civil War, said when he watched the movie, after 20 minutes, he had no idea what they were fighting about.
Right.
And it's true. I mean, I liked Civil War, but when the conflict of the film is so ill, like conceived and like not, it's just a weakness for the whole movie. It just makes the whole thing not work.
Right. They changed the whole fight between, is it moral to force these superhumans to, be police officers pretty much, and they change it to this whole fight is because of Bucky.
Yeah,
which is just kind of flimsy, I think.
Right.
And it makes me not like Bucky as a character too.
I honestly think the way he was treated in the movies, he's like a non-character, but that's another discussion. Yeah,
we're kind of getting off topic.
That's a whole other. But there's a lot of weaknesses with all the Marvel movies, as much as people love them. But we're not going to get into that either. But yeah. So getting back to this here, so I gotta say, this issue felt like a classic, Marvel comic. 2 reasons. Tom DeFalco, who we've talked about before, he does a very, very good, I guess you could say, imitation of the Stan Lee style of writing.
Yeah.
He's a good writer.
I was going to say the exact same thing. The writing felt like it was Stan Lee.
Right.
It was like what the story that was happening felt classic, but then also the dialogue too.
Right.
There was one line in particular that I really liked. Cap is fighting Scorpion. And he's kind of giving him this spiel about like, why are you doing this? You should be standing for human life and liberty. And Scorpion jumps in and says, "Shut up! If I wanted a sermon, I'd mug a minister."
Yeah,
I laughed out loud reading that. Like I literally like burst out laughing because I thought it was just such a fun, classic, like, corny comic book line, and I really enjoyed it.
Well, and the thing is that not everybody can do that dialogue. Like,
no.
God knows, oh my God, Brian Bendis, try as he might, he's horrible. Well, he's horrible at all dialogue, but his Spider-Man quips are terrible, And most of those guys, like, then you have guys like Paul Jenkins who would he'd have Spider-Man explaining why he, wisecracks. It's just, but like someone like Tom DeFalco, who's not overly revered in the community, he's obviously good. He's good at it. Like, his quips are funny, right?
Yeah.
Like, and like they talk like Stan Lee characters, which they should, because he co-created the characters, right? So, but anyway, let's get back. So this plot, okay, so an absurd Silver Age style plot. So, I didn't like the setup, but I like the rest of the issue. So we have, the Scorpion who is in, what is this, like a jail or like
I think it's like an insane asylum, like mental facility, because he's being checked on by doctors, and it turns out he's just kind of faking it to get his Scorpion suit back.
Yeah,
which is
like this
so
is
flimsy, but
so stupid. Like, these 2 scientists are experimenting or trying to figure out this guy's what's going on, and they're like, well, you know what, I know how we can cure him. We can give him back a Scorpion suit. And then he's like, I tricked you, I was faking, and then he just breaks out and takes off. So
can we also talk about how disgusting this first page is?
The face?
Yeah, I hate it.
Really?
I don't know why. I just I don't like looking at it. I know. I guess that's probably the point, is he's like faking being a madman.
Sure.
But it's just, I really.
So what is it you don't see? Because here's the thing. I love Herb Trimpe.
Right.
So one of the things about Herb Trimpe is even Stanley told him that he couldn't draw well, but he could tell a good story.
Right.
And so his art is notoriously, like, I don't want to say it's ugly, but it's like, his figures are distorted.
Yeah.
His faces are weird. Is that what you mean?
I think that's what this is. It just, everything about it feels like distorted and weird. I mean, even if we go beyond the whole, like, the eyeballs being like wall-eyed and the veins and like the nastiness that's supposed to be there, but like even like the fact that his cheekbones are not very parallel, and like it looks like the one side of his face is like really lumpy and swollen, the other side I don't know, I think it might be a mixture of the art and then also the context itself. But I really didn't like this first page. I read it as fast as I could to continue on.
It didn't affect me at all either way. Like
Yeah.
I didn't even honestly notice it, but I am used to his art being like, sometimes his art can be really good, but it's never bad, but sometimes it's definitely ugly. I'll give you that,
Right.
But he definitely cares more about telling the story, but that's just the way it was back then. So, But anyway, so Scorpion breaks out, and then where does he go here? He goes to the steal some weapons.
Right. Yeah, he steals some weapons, and Peter Parker leaves his job because he hears on the radio that Scorpio's out rampaging this facility.
Right.
So we see him rushing out, and is this supposed to be Deb?
Yeah, it's Deborah Whitman.
Is it?
Yeah, she gets a cameo, and he snubs her.
Right, which is weird. So when is this supposed to even take place?
Well, let's be clear. Back in these days,
Right.
Back in those days, continuity was a little bit looser. Like,
Okay.
I mean, they kept track of what was going on, but trust me, I know from reading like the whole Hobgoblin era that it doesn't go month to month. It's like sometimes the way that they would explain it is, okay, you got to read these 4 issues of Amazing, then read these 3 issues of Web, then these 4 issues of
interesting.
Spectacular. So it's not like one issue matches up to the same month of the other series, So Spectacular and Amazing in June 1981 are not necessarily going to match up.
So did they?
There's just no way.
Did they like release like a reading order or something, or was it just supposed to be like? Is it just discovered later on kind of thing?
I know that for a specific time of the Hobgoblin era, they actually published it in the letters page.
Okay.
They said, okay, just so because at that point the Hobgoblin mystery was running through all the comics, so you had to kind of keep track. So they actually released a reading order.
Interesting. Okay.
But they didn't do it for everything. But I mean, and as far as like, this, like I'm sure that like if you go to what is this? Marvel.fandom.com. They've probably figured out the exact order.
Probably,
like, look right
right.
here. Like, yeah, like if I go to Deborah Whitman, okay, here we go. This is what I'll do right now. So if I go to June 1981, so bear with us, listeners. So if you go to June 1981 and you go to, which one are we on? Are we on Marvel Team Up? Yeah, we're on Marvel Team Up.
Yeah.
Okay. So we're on Marvel Team Up. So then I go to Deborah Whitman. According to this website, her last appearance before this was Spectacular 55, and her next one is, hold on a sec here. Where did she go? Deborah Whitman's next appearance is Spectacular 56. So where's Amazing and all this? I don't even know. Like I have to keep. Oh, see, then it goes. Oh,
so
Amazing
then it
goes,
must take place like way after.
Actually, no. You know what? It says Amazing 218 is after those two, which means Amazing 217 is before, so really it doesn't match up, does it?
No.
It doesn't really match up because in those other stories, she's already dating another guy.
Right, and she's like already ignoring him too.
Right, so
because in the next issue that we're going to be talking about for Peter Parker Spectacular Spider-Man, she kind of just gives him the cold shoulder and ignores him. Right.
So clearly it doesn't all match up.
Yeah.
But that's okay.
I'm curious to see how modern comics, because I'm not completely up to date and I don't like keep track of comics now. So I wonder if that's changed, if they kind of keep a close eye of what's going on in the world.
Well, I'll tell you, I'm no expert, but I know that in the 2000s when like Joe Quesada was kind of in charge, or Quesada, it was the Wild West.
Really?
Like, oh yeah, like between like Amazing Spider-Man and Spider-Man, like he used to have all these other series like Web Spinners or whatever it was called, like Spider-Man's Tangled Web. Not only would the like timeline not match up, the characterization wouldn't match up. Like you'd have a character, you'd have like, I think it was Mysterio or someone. Mysterio would die in one series and then
just show up in the next one.
Yep, no explanation.
Oh, jeez.
Yeah, just complete garbage like that. Like, I'm sorry.
That sounds like the complete opposite of what I would expect, especially from Marvel. Like, I mean, maybe it's just because we're spoiled with the movies, because the continuity seems to be so strong.
Right.
And it really feels like one continuous story when you're watching the movies, that I just assumed that nowadays the comics would be kind of like that, but
No, from my
Wow.
experience, I'll tell you, I think that the continuity in the 70s and 80s was probably as tight as it ever was or ever will be. And I think it's
Interesting.
because of Jim Shooter's one, but I think it's because of Mark Grenwald. Because he was so obsessed with continuity that he kept everything in line. I think it was him. I could be wrong. But I also know that when Jim Shooter created Valiant Comics, their continuity was airtight as well.
Right. This is probably the animator in me, but I also absolutely love continuity. Like,
Sure,
not having
yeah.
the continuity there really kind of bothers me.
Right.
And it feels like that nervous tick kind of thing, like that. It really just kind of irks me when it doesn't match up. So
yeah, like I mean, you could read this story and sort of squeeze, like you could do a mind pretzel and figure out how this matches up, but it doesn't quite match up. But whatever. I mean, they were rushing these out on like a monthly basis on deadlines, and it's never going to be perfect. But anyway. So yeah, back to the story. So then we get a really cool page of storytelling on page Digital 6 here. I love this page. Like, look at Spidey on top of the roof, changing from Peter to Spidey, then getting his camera out, then getting the web cartridges and putting them in, and I just love it. This whole page is great. And then up, like, look at the perspective. It's below him, then it's below him again, then it's way above him, then it's below him. You know, it's great. Anyway, and then sorry, go ahead.
I was just gonna say, even like continuing on to the next page, I really like the shot of him like kneeling down on the roof with the pigeons,
right?
And then and then like jumping really close up when he's talking about like especially those who have to teach early morning biochem classes. Like it's kind of like a like an intense shot for kind of a comedically tense thing.
Yeah, and you got to wonder with the way that a lot of Marvel comics were done at the time, the art could have all been done first, and then, who's the writer? Jeez, I forgot.
True.
I forgot who the writer was on this.
Oh, it's Tom DeFalco.
Tom DeFalco, right?
Yeah.
He probably went back and just filled in the dialogue, right? So maybe Herb Trimpe drew that close up thinking, oh well, he'll put something really dramatic in there, but then he just put in this little reference to teaching in the morning. So.
Yeah, I like whether it was intentional or not. I think it's pretty. I think it was a pretty funny moment.
Yeah, definitely. And let's be clear. Like one thing I learned from reading Stan Lee and Jack Kirby Fantastic Four comics is sometimes a lot of the humor is created by the fact that Stan Lee is looking at Kirby's art and just adding stuff. Like afterward, it definitely can create its own gags. You know what I mean?
Right.
Depending on the order that it's done. But anyway, so then we have the Scorpion with all of his flunkies in this like warehouse type thing. And I don't know. I don't even know what they're talking about. I don't even remember.
Yeah, I can't remember exactly what they're talking about. They captured Jameson, and they have him. Yeah. So they break into the Bugle first, right?
Right.
And then they kidnap him.
That's later, yeah.
Oh, sorry. Which part are you talking about?
I'm back like when Spider-Man was up on the rooftop, and then we sort of cut over to Scorpion with his thugs.
Oh, okay.
And then basically, they're all kind of like no one really takes him seriously, so he's trying to prove to them that he's still a tough guy.
Right.
So he comes up with this plan. Yeah,
he's showing off too that he's still like the head honcho, and that's why he went earlier on to the that facility to steal the weapons. He upgraded his armor and his suit. So which I also like there was a purpose for him going and robbing a bank or robbing a facility, which alerted Spider-Man, which is now going to be kind of a problem for him later, and he uses this to intimidate the goons to get them to follow him again. Like that type of storytelling where one thing leads into the next really works for me. So
well, then the idea they have is a little bit absurd, where his idea is to he's like, under the savage leadership of the Scorpion, retailers who carry the Daily Bugle are harassed. It's kind of ridiculous.
Yeah.
But and then J. Jonah and Jameson is complaining that their circulation's down, and blah blah blah.
You know, I wonder if at the time though it would have been like a bigger deal, because if you think about it, like like a news report
Sure.
nowadays. Like if you're harassing the station and like messing that, like that could be kind of a bigger deal. Like if newspapers were much more common and newsstands were a big thing, like going and burning down
Sure.
Daily Bugle newsstands, and like they show them like blowing up like a Daily Bugle delivery van. Like it's I think it was probably a little bit more intimidating back then.
Yeah,
it's
that's
not
true. Yeah.
it's not like deface the gas stations that are selling the newspapers.
Right. Yeah. So okay, so then anyway, then we have our scene that we already spoke about, where basically Peter Parker runs into Steve Rogers in the hallway, and it's because Steve Rogers is he being interviewed here?
I can't remember.
Let's see here.
He's a commercial artist. I have the
Yeah.
appointment
Well,
with
he's
the
a- yeah.
city editor, Joe Robertson.
Right.
So he might be selling art or something for the Bugle.
You know, I know at one point he was actually drawing comics, which is kind of cool.
Oh,
But
that is
anyway.
really cool.
Yeah. So anyway, so then they pass each other in the hall, and then he comes back later. But then before that happens, Scorpion ends up attacking the Daily Bugle. So he comes out. So Rogers touches base with Peter, and he's like, Parker, I take it that the things didn't go well. Not very. How did you make out? Robertson liked my work, but the economic climate here is too unstable. So basically, this is just a way to get them together so they
Right.
can team up, right? Which is fine. So then Scorpion attacks the Bugle, and then it's kind of cool because then Peter Parker has to change into Spider-Man, and he wants to go behind this filing cabinet, but he's like, I was going to duck behind those filing cabinets, but I can sense that someone beat me to them. I guess it's back to the old stocker room. So then we see Captain...
Right.
Like, first of all, where is there room behind this filing cabinet for a grown man to change into a costume? But whatever. Okay, that's fine.
Hey,
So then
if he's able to crouch down and hide his whole body under that small little shield, I can believe this.
Yeah. And it's, you know what? And this is where, if you look at the perspective, it gets a little wonky because Peter's walking by and we see kind of like maybe a foot of space behind the filing cabinet. But then the next panel,
It's way,
yeah, it doesn't quite match up, but whatever. Okay, fine. And then, so then Cap comes out, and then it's fisticuffs after that.
Yeah, and that's pretty much it. Like it's just pretty much a brawl. He does get away with JJ, and then they have to go back and get him. And so another thing too is this is like in a different building, like in their facility. Which I can't remember. How did they track him down again?
Track down
Scorpion after he leaves, because Spider-Man and Cap fall out of the building, and then everybody's kind of heckling them in the streets, and then Scorpion gets away, and then we cut to them to Spider-Man looking at the facility that they're holding him in, and then him and Cap break in and start fighting again.
So this is what's funny is Spider-Man is swinging away, and basically he just says Scorpy was seen heading towards the Bronx, and Zingo, I found him. So they don't really explain it or show it.
Okay.
That's it. He just finds them, it's ridiculous.
Yeah, okay. I thought maybe I had missed something.
No.
But okay.
He just finds them. And then it's funny because then Spider-Man goes, I better signal my shield-toting buddy. He was falling behind in a cab. So this is like very awkward storytelling. This is clearly like it wasn't shown properly in the art, so it had to be explained in the dialogue. Yeah. And also the reason Cap is in a cab is because he hurt his arm. He does say that he'll need a few minutes to have his arm taped, so that kind of explains why he's following behind in a cab, but it's still ridiculous. Though.
Yeah, it also feels like, why did you have to have this final conflict in this facility? Why couldn't this have just been still at the Daily Bugle?
Well, it's probably just to stretch it out, because imagine trying to stretch out one fight for 15 pages. And instead you split it up into two, but it is still kind of, there's not really much to it.
Right.
It's just another
But
fight
then the
scene.
end, the last page is like, the ending is just so abrupt again.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So like, I feel like, I don't know, they could have maybe cut down on that and then given us like a proper ending, maybe, but
It's not great.
No.
It's like I think it's more Herb Trimpe's, like we said, Herb Trimpe's art, and also the dialogue is like classic, but the actual plot is not great at all.
No.
And the thing about Tom DeFalco is I never know what to think about him because his Amazing Spider-Man run is so well regarded, but his Thor run, everyone hated it.
Mm-hmm.
His Fantastic Four run, everyone hated it. So it's just like, I'm not sure if he has like an A game and a B game or what.
Right.
Anyway, so yeah, not great. But, I can mildly recommend it as a classic feeling
I was going to
Spider-Man.
say, I don't think it was awful either. I thought it was just, it was good.
Yeah, exactly.
Mild recommend.
Right, me too.
Yeah. But we're going to move on next to Peter Parker, the Spectacular Spider-Man number 55.
Yes. This one... Oh, you want to take this one?
Oh, I was just going to say, this one was probably my favorite of the three.
Yes, of course.
Yeah.
It was. Almost every month, the Roger Stern Spectacular is our favorite of the month. Yes.
Right.
So written by Roger Stern, drawn by Luke McDonnell, filling in for Maurice Severin, I guess.
Yeah. And then again, Jim Mooney's back with the ink. So,
Right.
Yeah.
You got to wonder why they just didn't let him draw it. But I got to say, the art's not great.
No, especially at the beginning, I thought.
Yeah.
I didn't really have much of a problem with layout and like how the panels looked, but at the beginning, it doesn't look like Peter Parker. Maybe it's just the stubble. Like maybe it's just that.
Yeah,
the fact
that could be it.
he's shaving in this, so we do see him with like a 5 o'clock shadow, and it just doesn't look like him. But yeah, it feels like the characters are very off model in some parts.
Totally off model. You're right. Like the first page is actually not bad, but then the second page, there's a bunch of panels of him waking up and getting out of bed, and it just doesn't look like him at all.
Yeah.
It's just ugly.
Yeah, but then like later on, it does. Like if you look at Digital 5,
Sure. Yep.
it does look like him again.
Right. It gets better. Absolutely.
So I wonder if it's just the stubble like throwing us off. But like if you look at that second page, Digital 3, that top right panel does not look like Peter Parker at all.
No.
Like even with without the stubble, like it looks just like a completely different person.
Well, and then the third panel, it just doesn't even look like a professional comic.
Right.
It's like the foreshortening's all off and his face is all off.
Yeah.
He's all mushed together. Yeah, it's just not great.
Mm-hmm.
But anyway, so he escapes his landlady, which is always... I remember this landlady because she's around for a while. And
Right.
This is always a fun little subplot. But he escapes her and then goes on to... this is the university. So then he runs into Deborah Whitman again.
Mm-hmm.
And he's not really terrible to her, but there's clearly something in the air here.
Right.
And they kind of just... Sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, he's actually kind of nice in this one, and then Deb is finally kind of giving him the cold shoulder.
Right.
And she kind of finally puts her foot down. She says, "Congratulations, Parker, you've just won Cold Shoulder Award, and nobody deserves it more." Which is so true. Like,
yeah.
It's kind of nice to see some justice for Deb.
It's actually funny because he actually says in the thought bubble, "When I ran out on Deb, it was to check on a lady I hardly knew, a lady who almost killed me."
Mm-hmm.
And it's like, I wonder if he's criticizing Denny O'Neil. Like,
I wonder. That's
stupid
true.
that was. Yeah. Like,
yeah, that's
so
very interesting.
Dumb. Yeah.
And that could also explain maybe why it doesn't necessarily match up so well
That could be
with
it,
the other
yeah.
comics, because maybe this was more of a call out to be like, listen, that wasn't Spider-Man. This is kind of thing.
Right. So then we go into this new plot. Which is actually in Project Pegasus, which we're all familiar with from the Quasar Chronology, and we encounter this group of scientists who are all kind of arguing. They've got this, these canisters here.
Right.
And
yeah.
I don't know if this connects back to like an old story, but basically when they mix them together, it brings back this supervillain named Nitro.
I really kind of like this.
Yeah.
This idea
absurdly
that
cool, yeah.
that this is like this being that's completely made out of gas. So when he was in that gaseous state, they separated him into two different canisters so he couldn't be whole again and be like a human or like a person.
Right.
I think that's really smart, because if he was all in one canister, he would just have his powers to be able to escape, right? So I think that's kind of a clever, fun way. And like, normally I think it would have been done really cheesy, but this, it works for some reason. Like it's, and I think it's because too, the characters believe it.
Right.
And they sell it. So it works for me.
Exactly. I agree. It's a great idea. Unfortunately, the art kind of holds it back a little bit. This looks like bad, like off-brand 1960s art. And I mean, most 60s art is good from Marvel and DC, but try reading an off-brand comic from like Gold Key or one of those other companies, and this is what the art looks like. It just looks like garbage, you know? So unfortunately it does hold it back a little bit, but so
speaking of bad art, on digital page 10, the bottom left panel, Nitro is slapped his daughter. His arm is broken.
And that's the one he uses to slap her.
Yeah, like the arm that he uses to slap, like it looks completely broken.
Oh, okay.
Like it's facing the opposite way. Like it just looks so off.
You're right. Yeah, it's like the elbow is the wrong way.
Right. Yeah. So there's definitely a lot of.
There's a lot of examples, a lot of bad art in this comic.
Yeah.
It's like Luke McDonnell. I'm not sure if you know him, but he's I think he's most famous for doing Suicide Squad in the early '90s.
Okay.
And it wasn't really much better.
I don't think I've ever actually read any Suicide comics.
Yeah, that's pretty good. Like the '90s run by John Ostrander is pretty good. Yep.
Okay.
But the art was always pretty terrible, you know. And so so Nitro basically goes off, and he's sort of hiding in civilian clothing, and then I'm trying to follow along what happens. So then eventually he runs in with Spidey, and then they end up fighting, of course, which is fine.
Right. They're both at the bank. Parker's there to cash his check, and then he's kind of using his daughter to get a bunch of money so he can run away. So from there, Parker quickly changes into Spider-Man, and then the fight ensues.
And, I think at this point we can accept that every issue of Spider-Man is going to have a fight scene at one point. That's fine. But I got to say, it actually is, I really like the way Spider-Man ends up beating him.
Yeah.
Because let's be clear, Peter Parker is he's a scientist student.
Yeah.
He's smart. He knows his stuff. And so anyway, so he sees these canisters, and basically he comes up with this plan. So he swings in with this canister, and he says, I brought you a going away present and coated it with my extra sticky webbing to keeping you from dropping it, Butterfingers. What? So basically, he coats him in this other chemical, jumps out, and then there's this explosion. And then so this is where it gets kind of weird, because he defeats Nitro, and Nitro is like keeled over like he's in excruciating pain. And he's like, what did you do to me? I feel awful. Can't concentrate enough to explode. Can't even stand. Then Spidey says, so then he says, that particular brand, oh, sorry, I'll go up.
Right.
I'm surprised you can even talk. That canister was full of nausea gas. Is that how you pronounce it?
Nauseous. Or nausea gas.
Nausea gas. The stuff used to break up riots. The particular brand produced by Chemical happens to combine with other gases quite easily. I figured it might combine with your vapor form when you exploded, and from the looks of things, I was right. That nausea gas is now part of your chemistry, Nitro. I'm afraid you're going to be sick for a long time. I'm sorry.
This is cool.
It's so weird because he defeats him, but it's like he feels such remorse about it because this guy is in excruciating pain.
Right.
He's just laying there, and then the next page, Spidey says, "It wasn't the nicest way to stop a man, but he didn't give me a choice." And then he's actually talking to his daughter. He's like, "For what it's worth, Miss Hunter, I'm sorry it turned out this way." And then she's like, "I understand, Spider-Man. You did what you had to do. I'm just glad you stopped him before he hurt anyone else." It's just like it's a really weird. It's a realistic. Way to handle this.
It's true. Like how else are you supposed to stop somebody who's like just exploding constantly, like exploding and then reforming, exploding, reforming. Like he's kind of backed into a corner at this point, and he did what he had to do. And I think it was really clever. I really liked the ending of this one.
Yeah, I really. And then at the end, in the last panel, he says, even when I win, I feel like it feels like losing, and that's such a Stan Lee, Steve Ditko way to end the story, right? Just like the classic Spider-Man comics. So, once again, at the very least, this is the best story of the month.
For sure.
Art, unfortunately, suffers because it's a fill-in job by Luke McDonnell, so the art isn't good. So
and I think it's passable. Like, I wouldn't say that it's like ruins the story in any way.
No, it doesn't ruin the story. It's just really amateur sometimes.
Right.
But the storytelling is not terrible.
Especially compared to John Romita Jr. Like we've been spoiled with a lot of the really good stuff that he's done. So
absolutely.
Yeah.
Yep. So yeah, I once again, this is the best story of the month. So I recommend this
for
as
sure.
a classic Spider-Man story.
Yeah, and I really like the cover too. I thought it was pretty interesting. It's like this pinky color that's the entire the cover. Oh my god, what a sentence. The entire cover is like this pinky magenta, and Spider-Man's what?
I was gonna say it's Frank Miller.
Oh, is it? Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, Spider-Man's kind of in this like shadow, so he's almost all black, and then his webbing is red. And we have Nitro there kind of mid explosion, and you can see like the silhouettes of him getting bigger and bigger in the dots that are everywhere. I just really like this the
so
cover.
This era, most of the covers from this era are pretty good because they're mostly by Frank Miller. This isn't my favorite, but there's definitely still that Frank Miller sense of design with the black, almost silhouetted Spidey, and then the pink background. You're right, it is really good.
Yeah. So this wasn't what was your favorite of this week then?
Oh, is this one?
Oh, okay. Sorry, I thought you said it wasn't your favorite this week.
Oh no, it was. I said it's at the very least the story is my favorite.
Oh, okay.
Not the art.
Yeah.
Definitely not the art, but the story, it is the best one. So it's definitely the one I recommend for this week.
Yeah, same here.
So that wraps up this week. Next week, to celebrate our quarter year, for the very first time, we will have a guest host in the form of Bex Luthor from the Comic Book Syndicate. So she'll be helping us review Amazing Spider-Man 218, Marvel Team Up 107, and Peter Parker, The Spectacular Spider-Man number 56.
Yeah, and I'm looking forward to that. If you guys want to leave us a review or comment about what you guys thought about the episode or the comics we read, follow us over on Facebook and Twitter at Comic Book Syndicate. You can find us there, and make sure you guys leave us a review.
All right, and until next Monday, this has been Here Comes the Spider-Cast.
All right, see you next time.